facing their defense? What they do well to create turnovers and to limit opponent scoring?
Yeah, I mean they're a very disciplined, well coached group. They play with great energy and effort. You can tell they're coordinated well. They play off each other well. There are not a lot of mistakes, not a lot of open gaps, just a lot of discipline. Have a lot of respect for this team.
What is it that makes them so good as far as limiting those explosive plays? They're one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, they tackle really well. They play a great vision on the quarterback. Like I said, they play well together, so they know where their help is. They can funnel stuff back to zone players inside. They vice tackle well. And when they have opportunities to make plays on the football, they capitalize.
A lot different, and I don't know how much you're even worried about last year, but you did see them last year to this year in terms of how they're playing. I know personnel's a little bit different, but are they significantly better?
I wouldn't say they're a lot different schematically, more just that they're playing at a high level of execution. I think you saw that as the year went on with them last year. They built and into the postseason, and I think they picked up where they left off. I think they're playing with a great deal of confidence right now and a great deal of energy, and we got our work cut out for us for sure.
We're doing a lot more three wide, a lot less too tight than last year, which we would have expected based on the personnel, except you haven't had personnel necessarily.
Right.
What's kind of philosophy there?
Yeah, week by week, I think it goes into matchups, trying to create some matchups and what they do defensively, what they bring personnel-wise defensively. And so thus far, we've had a little bit more 11 personnel with 3 receivers on the field, trying to create some different matchups there. But I think that's a week-by-week thing. I think there are going to be times where we lean heavily on 2 tight end and 3 tight end groups, and there's some weeks where we won't, and that'll kind of unfold as we go.
How comfortable are you with the depth at tackle after Todd's retirement?
All those guys work extremely hard. I've been watching that group work on Show Team and taking a peek back at what they've been doing, for our defense. And each guy, that's had their opportunities out there to get reps, has improved. And so I'm excited about that, and I know those guys are eager for the opportunity to show they belong. So excited for those guys' opportunity.
Putting up some incredible run numbers, obviously. Maybe the one thing that we haven't seen quite as much is the big chunk Derrick Henry runs outside of Seattle. Is that something that you figure just comes in time, or is there anything different going on that is the reason for that?
Yeah, I think they just come in time. They happen naturally. If you start looking for the big runs, if you start looking for those 50, 60 yarders, you can sometimes hurt yourself doing that. And so staying with our game plan, staying with our scheme, I think we're one broken tackle, one finished block, right, one downfield block away from those things starting to happen. So, look at the Seattle game as an example. Hit a couple of efficient runs and then we popped a big one. I think that's the way Derrick's run style and our scheme style is.
I know you guys don't make excuses for injuries, but when you're a coordinator and you're looking at the injury report and you're seeing some of your key players come back and get healthy, is that refreshing in any way?
Well, it's certainly nice to feel like you have more weapons, more pieces, Try not to change too drastically or jerk the wheel based on people's availability. And so I don't want to jerk the wheel in the other direction when you get people back. It's a foundation, it's a system here that's been in place and has been successful, and how the different pieces plug into that. I think you can see some little wrinkles and adjustments, but hopefully not a drastic change.
He had talked about he was kind of upset with his performance last week. I feel like he's very critical of himself. As a competitor, he always wants to compete at the highest. Sometimes is that hard just to kind of say, okay, you're coming back from a hammy, maybe ease your way into it, don't get too hard on yourself. How do you work with a personality like that who clearly wants to be the best all the time?
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes him great, right, is that he's his own biggest critic. And, I think that certainly as long as that doesn't affect his confidence and his play speed, then it's a healthy thing. Thus far, I've never seen that from AJ. He just wants to drive himself, to be the best and continue to improve, and that's what you love about the guy. He goes out and makes some big plays. Made a real nice play to get us down on the goal line last week. And I think that he's trending in the right direction. Growing more, getting back physically more comfortable, and you want him to want to be a perfectionist. As long as that doesn't bleed over into overthinking.
Into doing a snap count, like AJ, for instance, what goes into setting a snap count each week, and how hard is it to implement, given that you don't necessarily know how many plays you're going to get that day?
I'd say the hardest part for me is excited to see him out there. We love him being out there, just his energy and certainly his talent. So you want him out there for a bunch of stuff. So as you're laying out the plan, you're saying, okay, we really want him on this play, or we really want him on this play. All of a sudden that list can grow, to be quite large. But I think that's a delicate balance. I think it can adjust in game based on how guys are feeling and all those things. I don't think you really go in saying, all right, there's this hard cap that we can't go past. I think you kind of deal with the ebbs and flows of the game, and that's a group decision. Certainly starts with Coach Vrabel, and then with Coach Moore and myself, we figure that out along the way.
So there would never be an instance where, 40 plays was JJ's limit. You get to the fourth quarter, he's done 40 plays. You're like, sit down. That's probably not going to happen.
To this part, I haven't experienced that. I hope I don't. I hope I don't get that. Hey, he reached his max and you're out. No ATM overdraft fees.
Hope that you're kind of at the start of that process with Julio, and what's it like when you don't really know for sure on a Thursday if a guy's going to be ready on a Monday?
Yeah, I think the approach we discussed a few minutes ago, of not jerking the wheel too much or changing the system too much based on player availability, it helps you there, right? So whatever we end up getting Julio for or don't get him for, you're able to adjust, and it's a testament to the rest of those guys, Marcus and Josh and all those guys that have stepped in and played that spot, that we don't have to change what we do too much, waiting to find out who can go and who can't.
You've got some time in as far as with Tannehill, what plays up, what plays down, drafting the game plan. Is there anything that is different or that stands out to you throughout the process, and how has that process gone with him, game plan?
Yeah, I think time on task, you get a little bit more efficient, finding the wrinkles that you have to iron out in the game plan or certain things that you got to make sure you see in practice, different looks defensively and all that. But the process with Ryan's been outstanding since the day I got here, really, as a tight end coach, and the conversations I got to have with him along the way. He's a great guy. He's a competitor. He loves football. He loves talking X's and O's. We see the game very similar. And so that piece of it, hasn't changed too much. I think we've just become more efficient in our process.
Jeremy McNichols particularly good in the screen game, or is he just the beneficiary of some plays that have been blocked up really well?
I got to give a lot of credit to the offensive line for the work they've done in the screen game this year, committing to getting our screen game going. But I think Jeremy has a good feel for setting up those blocks, and realizing that it's not just get the ball in your hands and run as fast as you can. There's some nuance to screens. And I once heard this said, screens are like snowflakes. They're all different, and they all play out different. And I think Jeremy understands that, and so he has good patience in running them. But again, the offensive line's done a great job of committing to improving that area of this offense.
For Marcus, not ever playing a game, of course, for the Titans, to playing, maybe 50 snaps in that game. What made you guys so confident, that he was not only ready to go, but ready to play such a big role in the game?
Yeah, confidence is built through repeated performance, right? And we all saw what Marcus did in training camp. So we knew who he was and what kind of player he was, and so did he. And so it just became about the opportunity. So there was no doubt in any of our minds, including Ryan, that Marcus was going to go out and play well. And, I think he picked up where he left off in training camp.